Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha. Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Shri Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Paramagurubhyo Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru Deva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shri Hanumate Namaha. Om Namo Hanumate Bhayabanjanaya. Sukham Kuru Kuru Phat Swaha. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 9th of June 2025. I want to offer my prostrations, Ananta Koti Namaskara and Danvat Pranam, Sashtang Pranam to all the great sages and to Bhagavan, Parabrahma, Paramatma residing everywhere at all times in everyone's heart. We are continuing to examine Ātma-Nivedanam Bhakti this month and the related ideas around that extraordinary 9th form of devotion. Just to continue a bit from yesterday's discussion about the importance of sadhana and that there is no sadhana. Both of those concepts have been talked about before on several occasions. But just to look at that again briefly so that it's very clear what we are talking about. There should not be any misunderstanding about the importance of sadhana. Meaning what? Discipline. That getting up at a certain time in the morning, sitting for dhyan, doing so many jap mala. This is necessary. One cannot discount that. The point that was being made yesterday was that just doing that in terms of a numerical count doesn't lead to a result that Bhagavan has to come to us. That was one point. What it does do though, it accumulates punyam. Yes, that much it does, definitely. So for example, I can take this mala and if I say that I'm going to take a sankalpa or maybe because of Guru Agnya or whatever, that we want to do 11 rounds every day. You can do 11 rounds, that's over 1,000 mantras, 1,008 like that, something like that is there. 108 times 11, whatever that number is. Okay, I can do that. Now, the question here with regards to Atma-Nivedanam Bhakti, if the mind, see again this word I is not the right word to use here. Once the Antakarana is in resonance with Atma-Nivedanam state, meaning total giving over, then the 11 rounds are done in that state. And that is different from Sachin saying, I am going to do my sadhana, 11 times. Not with ahankar, I usually say, but there's still an I that I'm counting these and I'm doing this in this way. And the Atma-Nivedanam is not completely there. That's the difference. So then punyam accumulates. That's what happens. Yes, definitely punyam accumulates. There's no doubt about that. So at the minimum, we can do regular sadhana and we should be doing that. But it's the internal shift with which that is done. That is the shift beyond that punyam state. Punyam meaning good, the fruits that you get from the good action. It's a sattvic action. There's a fruit that is generated. Beyond that into the nirguna Brahman, into the higher divine consciousness. It's just an internal shift. The sadhana is still the same. Two people, person A, person B, sitting next to each other in front of the Shivling, and they're doing 11 malas, right, of the Namah Shivaya mantra. The first person is doing it without the Atma-Nivedanam full resonance. The other person is doing it with full resonance. You cannot even tell the difference. They both bow down. Externally, they look exactly the same. But the difference is in terms of the Jivatma's realization. There's a huge difference. So in the Atma-Nivedanam, there is the unwinding of the energetic imprint of clinging and resistance. You see, our mind is clinging to so many things, right? To fears, to disturbances, to people of this world, to what will happen tomorrow, where will the next dollar come from. These constant worries are there in most people's minds. And they have to be there too. It's not like you can be nonchalant about it. Obviously, it's not easy. It's just survival for so many millions of people is difficult. So many problems are there in the world, no doubt. But whatever the situation may be, it could be the best in the material world or the worst in the material world. As long as a person is alive, one can unwind the energetic imprint of clinging and resistance. Let's understand this point. Clinging is what? Is clinging out of fear. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this person doesn't do this? What if my life turns this way? There's what if. Constantly this goes on. It just goes on. Even if one's life is very good, then with one's children, with grandchildren, family members, somebody else. If not that, then something else going on in the world, some other political problem, this problem. Constantly we are burdened by the what if. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? Get rid of all that thing. Ātma-Nivedanam Bhakti removes all of those what ifs, all of them, each and every one of them. That is the clinging. It is called the energetic imprint of clinging. And that energetic imprint, meaning what? That the Shakti inside is getting imprinted inside that binding force. It is the mental binding. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this person does this? This fear. Vitaraga bhaya krodha sitadhir mundiruchita. We talked about it a few days back. Rag, bhay and krodha. Bhagwan Krishna kehte. Vita means that it's gone from inside. The rag and the dvesha, the likes and dislikes, the pulling back and forth, this dissipates. Mind is absolutely, our inner space is absolutely clear. The energetic imprint is no longer in that clinging modality. That is why we use the Devi mantras. We ask Devi to remove that through the Bij mantra sadhana. As I mentioned yesterday, the Aim Bij mantra. We can all do that. That's not a problem. Karo. This is not a problem at all. Unko prarthna karni, Mata ji ko. Please bless to remove ignorance, agnan. Aim, stay with Aim. Don't do the other mantras by themselves. You can do Aim, Reem, Klim, Chamundai Viche. That is okay. One mala is enough. But more than one mala, you should have guru for that. Right? Because it is a different kind of thing. You have to really have some guidance in that. Otherwise, you don't know which way the energies can go. Because unless there is 100% saintliness, the Shakti Upasana is not to be done extensively. Because the energy can go into Rajogun, Tamogun, it can go into any direction. Right? So one has to be careful with that. But up to one mala is okay. Namah Shivaya mantra jitna kar sakte, itna karna. But Aim Bij mantra, ek mala minimum you can do. And with the guidance of Guru or proper teacher, it is possible to do more, but it requires lot of guidance back and forth, and it's a long and complicated explanation, simply because everything begins to shift in your life once you start doing Bij mantra sadhana in depth. Little bit is okay. 1 mala, 2 malas, 3 malas, that much is not an issue. But if you go into 11 malas, 21 malas, 108 malas per day, you have to have enlightened guru for that. Shakti Upasana mein, jisko siddha, जिसको how can we say, देवी का साक्षात करे, ऐसे जो संत, ऐसे जो गुरु है, उनके गाइडेंस के नीचे ये सब करना चाहिए. Otherwise it is not to be done. Namah Shivaya mantra, Ganesh mantra, all other mantras are fine. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ka mantra, Mata ji ke mantra में बहुत थोड़ा ध्यान रखना चाहिए. Even with the the devotional songs, garbas and all that, to some extent, don't do too much of that, because you cannot handle it. That's why it's too far advanced. You see, so just be careful. Or Ejo online maybe, I'm just mentioning this very quickly, online these Siddha Kunjika Stotram and things, a lot of them are mispronounced. Mahamrityunjay is mispronounced quite a bit online. So try not to listen to any of those mantras online unless you know that they are spoken properly and has been tested properly by Guru and all that, to make sure that the pronunciation is correct. They have the way, there's people who put the 4 Vedas on there, Rudram, Chamakam, but some of these things are not pronounced correctly. So be careful with that, so you don't want to be caught up in listening to these mantras that are not pronounced correctly. बहुत ध्यान रखना चाहिए. So it's okay. Bhajan Kirtan is good. Namah Shivaya mantra, absolutely enough. You don't need anything else. Om Namah Shivaya Swaha. Havan karna hai, aap kar sakte hai. No problem. Perfectly okay. Do that. You can do internal havan. These other forms of upasana, these are very tricky and they require a lot of guidance, and you have to be very careful because anything can happen in that. You don't know what can happen in that, right? So Guru Tattva is required and grace of God. Anyway, we'll leave that subject aside for the time being. But my point is simply that the energetic imprint is deeply changed in the internal turnover of the vritti towards Paramatma. So for example, in the Vaishnav Parampara, lots of bhajan kirtan are done. Lots of bhajan kirtan. बहुत करना भजन कीर्तन. श्रीनाथ जी के भजन है, कृष्ण भगवान के भजन है, राधिका जी के भजन है. These are all love-oriented bhajans. Sharanagati, love like this. Fantastic. Even in the Vaishnava Parampara, by the way, this Bij Mantra stuff we're talking about, that is given at a much later stage. Even in the Hare Krishna movement, the ISKCON movement, I had a long conversation with one of the sadhus there last year sometime. And they were saying that after many, 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 many years of sadhana, if the guru is seeing that the shishya is ready, then they give a bij mantra, like this Klim bij mantra and all that. They give that much later on. Because a person is not ready for that. The purification has to be there. Antakaran ki shuddhi honi chahiye. You cannot just dump energy and activate energy. It will not work like this. It's like what's happening in the world today. A lot of people have, these countries have all these nuclear power and different weapons. Kitni shakti hai. It's all energy. But it's buddhi brashta ho gayi sabki. That's the problem. They cannot come together as one world. And the world is constantly on the verge of annihilation. Why is that? Buddhi brashta, buddhi nashat pranashati. Shakti mil gayi hai. Buddhi nahi ke kaise iska use karna. People need to come together. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Itni hi baat hai. Vasudeva Kutumbakam and right use of Shakti solves all the world's problems. Only two concepts. Kaun kar sakta hai? And look at the trouble that is there. Look at the suffering that is there. Continuously it is there throughout the world. Because of lack of the Upanishadic Agnya, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Ye Agya ko gyan nahi hai, or they don't want to follow. Always some groups of people that don't want to follow this thing. Then they're interested in ahankar, ego, this and that. That's why the Mahabharata happened. That's why the Ramayana happened. That's why all these yuddhas happened. Even Bhagwan Krishna and Bhagwan Ram, they had to deal with this, right? Yes, they could have changed it by force, but they won't do that. They don't control anybody by force. Every Jivatma has free will. If you want to go on the path of ahankar, go on that path. But this is the whole point. Or go on the path of bhakti. But this is the way the sansara works. What can you do? That's the way it is. So, yeah, in theory, if the whole world realized Vasudeva Kutumbakam and Shakti ko don't misuse Shakti and use it for everybody's benefit, world becomes heaven within few years only. All of the energy that is going into the destructiveness, all the money and finances and everything, it could go into education. It can go into natural development. It can go into inner development. It can go into spiritual development. How much money, time, effort is going into just harm for each other? Kitna agnyan hai ye? It's a maha agnyan. It's not just agnyan, it's maha buddhinash. That's what it is. This is Kali Yuga. And this goes on and on and on and on. And aisa hi chalta hai in the Kali Yuga. And then that's why those who have realized Harinam, Bhagvat Naam Lena, that's the only doorway out of this Kali Yuga into moksha. You can get mukti in Kali Yuga by Harinam. That's the only other things are support. It's okay. Bhagwan ka naam, because there's no big sadhana anybody can do. The environment is not good outside. There's so much violence and there's so much problems, and that's why there's natural calamities and all these things, because the nature also reacts against that. You see, so like even in the Jewish tradition, they say to harm one human being is to harm the whole of humanity. That tradition says that. We say in the Sanatana Dharma, ahimsa paramo dharma. So these ideas are very basic. The point here is that the unwinding of the energetic imprint of clinging and resistance. This is through Ātma-Nivedanam. Now, there's another point. To keep 100% attention on yourself is not easy to do. The mind gets, we're so concerned about what's going on. We should be. We do what we can. We wish all, but we don't have control over the madness that is going on around, all these wars and problems and issues and environmental damage and God knows whatever else is going on out there. We don't have control over any of those things. But the only thing we have control over is that we can keep attention on our own liberation. Yes, Gunatitanand Swami mentioned this, and I've mentioned this, quoted this many times before. Ke potana kalyan ma drashti barabar rakvi, bijano loto joto karu. Keep your attention 100% on where you are. And the others, as needed, interact with others. Don't be concerned about somebody else's kalyan. You're concerned about your own kalyan. You serve others, take good qualities of others. God will take care of them. You don't worry, put that on your head. This happens in spiritual life also. Somebody starts taking a spiritual path. It can happen to me also. I can wind up internalizing other people's stuff. No. Whatever they're doing, that's on them. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is towards myself. So this is the point. That when you're keeping 100% attention on your own development, that's a big thing. And that will unwind the energetic imprint of clinging and resistance. And where the gradual release of unconscious psychosomatic patterns will occur. All of these psychological and physical level patterns, it unwinds the whole thing, cleans it all up. Bahut sundar जीवन बनता है. And then, as needed, the relationship with the outside world is described in the Bhagavad Gita beautifully in many chapters. But the essence of that is that there is a non-entangled relationship with everything outside. Yes, we have to have a relationship with the outside world. We cannot be isolated. But the question becomes, how much relationship? What is the quality of it? Is there any binding in that? What is to be taken from that? What is to be given to that? And that's it. And then once you have that mastery of unbounded interaction, then one is absolutely free. How fantastic is that? Unbinding interaction. I'll give you very simple, some silly examples almost. Sounds like silly. You go to a movie theater. You're sitting all the way in the back of the theater because you want to see the big screen from the back. And you've got, movie theater is pretty full because it's a popular movie. So you're sitting in the center seat over there. You've got people on the right of you, people on the left of you. And you would have said, oh my God, okay, well, these people are here. So they come and sit next to you and you say, okay, hello, how are you? It's a nice movie. Maybe have a brief conversation, maybe. They have their popcorn, you have your popcorn. And then you watch the movie. And then everybody leaves the movie theater. Do you remember that person anymore? Who was sitting next to you? Do you even care about that person? Do you have any thought? Yeah, you may wish well for them. Vichar bhi aata hai who that was, what they were eating. What we remember? We remember the movie. We don't remember the people sitting next to us and who they were and why they were there. And we exchange a few words here and there. But if you have a longer conversation, you say, okay, but even then, there's a decision to be made. How much? Do you start asking them their life history in the movie theater? Just like that, this is Sansar ek movie theater hai. All these people in this, everybody A to Z, they're all the people sitting in that theater. इसके साथ क्या लेना देना है कुछ? भगवान के साथ लेना देना है. Not anybody else, and not a single jivatma, not one jivatma is to be stuck to. When we go in a movie theater with 300 people, are we getting stuck to those people? Or we are interested in the movie? We're more interested in the popcorn than all those other people. What is that popcorn? That is your mala. What is the movie? That is the Lila Charitra of Paramatma. See the analogy. All those people, you wish well for them. You enjoy with them. It's okay. Have nothing to do with them. The moment we get to that point where internally we have nothing to do with anybody, we are in 100% vairagya. Kitna difficult hai. How is it possible? Is it possible to live that way in the world? Yes. In fact, our family life becomes fantastic once we reach vairagya. किसी के साथ राग द्वेष होता ही नहीं. We do our duties beautifully with tremendous love. Love is not rag and dvesh. That's the difference. Kitna difference hai? When real love is there, the worry, tension, fear, this, that, it goes away because of Jnana Shakti. That the Jivatma has come into the family. We have also come into some family. It is on a journey through the family that Jivatma doesn't belong to the family. Not at all. Nobody belongs to us. This is only a karma ka sambandh because of attachments. That's why the Jivatma comes in Vachanamrut, Garada Pratham 17. I'll make a recording on that at some point in English, in the Swaminarayan recordings. But that's how that works. It's a very intricate process of how the reincarnation cycle works. Hamare जीवन में जो आते, they're coming through us. They're not ours. कोई हमारा नहीं है. तो वो कौन के है? भगवान के है. कितनी सुंदर बात है. How beautiful that is. But don't misunderstand. Again, be very careful. These ideas doesn't mean lack of responsibility. Doesn't mean, well, who cares? I don't care about anybody running away. No. It does. In fact, on the contrary, it means total responsibility towards the individuals around you. The right kind of responsibility, the right kind of interaction as needed. But as you know, those of you who are parents, as children grow up, they grow up and they start living their own life. Parents are still entangled. What are you doing? They call every day. They do this, do that. Love them. Let them go. Just like the birds, when they're born, you see that the mother bird, she'll feed the younglings, and then eventually they learn to fly very quickly. That's the nature ka kram hai. Of course, love is not attachment. Love is not worry. The moment we worry about somebody, that is not love. Understand this point. And this is where this 9 forms of devotion comes. And this is difficult even for Sachin to explain. It's extremely difficult to even talk about this. But it is a big difference between love and attachment. I'll give you my own example. Like my mother lives in India right now. She's there. She's enjoying herself. Do I love my mother? Yes. But all I have to do when I see her, what I try to do, but in my mind, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matru Rupena Samsita. Get out of the mind that this is my mother. She's everybody's mother. Get it out of the mind. I don't tell anybody that. I don't even tell her that. Ek drishti ka change hai. So then the entanglement, you're doing good. The normal same conversation happens. How are you doing? What's going on? What is my duty? Love and affection. What is the love? What is the change in the vision? That's the difference. You see, so the difference is this internal perspective changes. And when that changes, when the vision changes, we become free, and the person that we're interacting with also becomes free. इसको कहते हैं कृपा दृष्टि, संत की कृपा दृष्टि. इन our सनातन धर्म में बहुत बात होती है ना. We say that संतों की कृपा थाय, अंतर निर्मल થઈ જાય, संतों ना संगम. It's a beautiful bhajan. ज्ञान भक्ति भराए, संतों ना, संत की दृष्टि. The संत की दृष्टि is not by clothes and all that. It is by realization. It is by changing the vision. Try it today. When you see every person that is coming around you, look at that individual without entanglement, with only love, and offer that love to Paramatma. Then now something interesting happens. The interaction radically changes. Something magical happens there. Try kar de. These are spiritual experiments. Something magical. Now, what is that magic? That you have to anubhav. Aapka anubhav hoga. Usme kya hota hai? You will notice that the other person settles down. The usual ego-driven conversation doesn't remain. Conversation remains. Functionality, all that remains. Then real relationship begins at that point with another person. This is one of the key points made by J. Krishnamurti. To not function through the images and to see the other individual without the screen of images. That's a more, esoteric way of putting that same concept. These are extraordinary states. And then the relationship with another is a divine relationship. It's the same, husband, wife, children, family, everything is still the same. But relationship, how does it transmute? The fear, anger, agitation, tension, everything goes away. all in one shot. And what remains is undiluted love, and because of that, through that, the exact right duty towards that person. Duty, but plus love equals non-entangled life. Love minus duty, you don't have love anymore. If somebody says, I really love the person, some people are like that, right? They love going to mandir. Mandir mein bahut jate hai. They are just into these religious organizations, but they are completely ignoring their family. Completely, like they have misunderstood Vairagya. I have met people like that, quite a few. Don't care, because it's a misunderstanding. Mandir mein jate, santon ke saath jate, jo bhi karte, it's fine, whatever it is. Fine, do all that. But ghar mandir nahi hai. So that you have to realize that what is going on, see what is happening there. Ghar mein sadhana karna. Wish well for them. Realize they're on their own path. Don't expect all the other family members to take a spiritual path. They may not. They don't have to. Who says they have to? If they will, they will. If they don't, why you worry about that? Don't worry about that. Let them, if they ask about it, fine. If they don't, it's okay. Don't push anybody. This is one of the points that happens in spiritual life also. The desire to push somebody into this thing. Nahi, bilkul nahi. Kabhi bhi ye karna nahi. It happens when it happens. But when we do more sadhana in the home, it will benefit everybody. And in fact, it's not even about talking. It's about looking. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised what happens. I had a conversation with a very enlightened person one time back on this point. When he and I were going he was an older gentleman in his 70, 75, 80 years old. This is some 25 years ago. And we had gone for a walk in a park. He's a very enlightened Gujarati fellow. And he used, like one of my gurus actually, and he taught me a lot. And we were talking about this point, about what happens when we look at another being. And what happened because we were just in that spiritual, modality of our contemplation and all. So there was an earthworm on the sidewalk. When you're walking, you have these earthworms. You can start swiggling around like that. So we both looked at that earthworm. It just somehow it was in our path, and we kind of stood and walked around it. So he said immediately that the fact that we were doing bhajan kirtan and all this thing all day today, and now we're contemplating on this, and Guru Parampara's blessings are there. When you look at this earthworm, it starts to progress out of that yoni. It will go further now. See this point. See, this is the point Sachin is trying to make here, or being made here. That when we are looking at another being, whether it's a dog, an animal, an earthworm, a bee, a tree, a child, anybody, but we're looking at that being through heightened Ātma-Nivedanam, through the 9 forms of bhakti that are erupting from within, immediately that Jivatma starts its progression upwards towards higher realization. It will come out of that lower yoni, that lower life form. It will go into a higher life form, higher consciousness. Yes, 100% ye baat satya hai. It is a metaphysical truth. I don't have time to explain the deeper metaphysics of that right now. It's a 20, 30 hour conversation to explain how that exactly happens. It's a very intricate, there's a lot of examples of that, of Naradji also, that different animals see him and then they go into higher life forms. So in closing today, the only point is, it's very simple. Increase the vibration. What is the vibration? Bhakti. Bhakti is the highest vibration. There is no vibration higher than bhakti. Vibration meaning spanda. Spandan. It is called spandan. So when we have that highest vibration, then the unwinding of all of the ajnan, it just gets obliterated completely. Our body and our mind are well aligned. Whoever we're interacting with the presence of Paramatma, with the same action, same duty, but the vision is totally changed. In my own life, in this life, same thing is attempted when I see my mother. Before I contact her on WhatsApp, I talk to her nearly every day. How are you doing? How are things? What's good? Just a normal conversation, but change the vision. या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः. Change the vision, removes division, and it removes that sense, this is my mother. She is in relative world, Vyavharika Satyam, but not Paramarthika Satyam. बिल्कुल नहीं. पारमार्थिक सत्य में एक ही मदर है, that is the Jagadambika, mother of all beings. How beautiful is that? कितनी सुंदर दृष्टि है. And you'll be surprised the magic that happens. If you have your parents, see them as Shiv and Shakti. Don't see them as just my parents. See the magic that happens. Try करना है. These are spiritual experiments. Don't have to tell anybody anything. अंतःकरण में ये एक भाव का प्रश्न है. So try doing this, right? So we'll stop here for now. Lots of fun stuff. Boy, I don't know how time goes by. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Shri Sadgurubhyo Namaha Dhyanamulam Gurur Murtihi Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mokshamulam Gurur Krupatameva Mata Chapita Tameva Tameva Bandusha Sakatameva Tameva Vidyadravinam Tameva Tameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundaye Viche Om Glom Hum Klim Jumsa Jwalaya Jwalaya Jvala Jvala Prajvala Prajvala Aim Rim Klim Chamundaye Viche Jvala Hum Sam Dam Ksham Phat Swaha Om Durge Durge Rakshini Tha Tha Swaha Om Shri Durga Arpanamastu Om ह्रीं स्वाहा श्री राधा कृष्णार्पणमस्तु.